Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. By the way, the other, just things swamping around in the swamp that are, again, 100% projection. Trump is the one that's always been creepy about his own daughter. And I mean, publicly. Right? Saying if she were my daughter, I'd date her. Agreeing she's a piece of ass on Howard Stern show publicly. Right? And so, but the thing I keep seeing is like, oh, Ashley said that Joe Biden was, tried to get in the shower with her or something. It's like you can tell it's complete fiction, to project away from Donald Trump being so creepy about his own daughter, right?
100%. It's what I said at the beginning. Anything you don't nail him on, he's going to put on his opponent.
Yeah.
And the whole pedophile predator thing is Trump. He used to talk to the cameramen on his set like, what do you think of her? Nice piece of ass. Pardon me for cursing. Referring to Ivanka. He had her hosting Miss Teen USA at 16.
Yeah.
He was bringing her as his date to the elite model contest, which was John Casablancas and his organization, basically to bring 17-year-olds over from Eastern Europe and turn them into models, right?
Yeah.
But he brought his daughter. That's the famous picture when he's squeezing her hand and she's dressed up like a 30-year-old. She's like 10. She got a modeling contract at 12. She was his date.
I don't know. It's not that facts matter anymore, but Ashley Biden has never accused President Biden of anything. Like, it's just, this stuff is just made up.
Yeah, and can we say one thing on that? That came from, they stole her her diary. She left like basically a recovery journal in a closet of a halfway house in Florida during the pandemic. Somebody found it, sold it to Project Veritas. Project Veritas gave it to the Trump campaign, and they passed it around a fundraiser in Florida that Don Jr. was at, who himself is no stranger to struggle and addiction. It's beyond reproach to do, or it's beyond, the pale to do something like that.
Well, I mean, that's right. To target Hunter Biden, who clearly has been in recovery for a long time, when there's Don Jr., is clearly coked to the gills, allegedly. But oh my God, clearly not in recovery.
Yeah.
It's just,
No. And they need recovery, and they know it. They were dry when I worked around them. Don and those guys didn't touch a booze because they'd already been down that road. Don Jr. got kicked out of the Comedy Cellar for being drunk because he got in a fight with somebody, and he poured his beer on their girlfriend. And then somebody, was on the New York Post 20 years ago. He was a public drunk. He was a fallen down drunk at Penn.
Oh my God! Since I'm down the conspiracy rabbit hole.
All right, let's go.
Allison Gill tweeted, "FYI, Brooke Schmidt died mysteriously about 3 months before the search of Mar-a-Lago." And you just said lots of folks with connections to dealings involving Trump-Russia die mysteriously, and it has nothing to do with his decades of involvement with global crime organizations and large-scale money laundering for decades. Also, Deutsche Bank money laundering had no connection to Justice Kennedy's retirement. I mean, I've always said, Noel, so as you've said, I think there are so many more shoes to drop. Do you think we're ever going to know the whole Trump story? Because
No, because, and I try to fictionalize it.
Boo, Noel, boo. That's not the right answer.
Let me rephrase that. I am writing a fictitious account of how best I can piece it all together now. And if you read that, it'll come out when I'm done. You'll piece some of it together. But, the 6 Russians that died the night Trump was elected, one of them was in the Russian consulate on 91st Street, between Madison and 5th. That's 20 blocks up from Jeffrey Epstein. All these guys were involved in international conspiracies. It's
Uncle
not
Noel,
a coincidence.
tell us the story about the helicopter again.
Okay. There you go. That was his executives, right, who were rumored to be cooperating into a federal investigation into money laundering in Trump's casinos, which they were a front for and which he later paid fines for on behalf of Trump Taj Mahal, right? So these guys were rumored to be cooperating. Trump summoned them to a press conference in New York City for a boxing match. Why you would need your CFO to come to a presser for a boxing match is beyond me, but he summoned these guys, put them on a rental helicopter that he got in North Jersey, even though he owned a bunch of his own with his name on the side at the time, right? He rents a helicopter. That helicopter crashes on the way home because it had a rotor chip, a crack in the rotor, which had never happened before in the factory that produced those rotors. It went down in the Pine Barrens. Everybody died. Case closed. Trump lied, said he was supposed to be on the helicopter. I'll add one thing. One of the relatives of somebody who died, one of those executives, came to my show at City Winery a couple years ago, and after the show was like, I fully believe he had everything to do
My
with
God.
my loved one's death.
God.
So the families at the time knew he was guilty. But,
Right. And
you know,
Ivana's just clumsy. Or was it
Allegedly.
murder?
Right,
Okay.
and Dr.
Murder.
Bornstein died in January 2021, a couple, 2 weeks after January 6th. He's dead in his house in Scarsdale. His family doesn't tell anybody, and they quietly take out an ad in the New York Times. No
Hey.
cause of death listed,
I mean, you've been talking about this forever. You on Twitter, you said if the intersection of drug cartels, money laundering, sex trafficking, and Wall Street banking real estate development had an address, it would probably be Trump Tower in the 80s. Start there and you may begin to understand the tentacles of treason. Ay, ay, ay. And I mean, skip to this latest piece I just read about, the Kremlin and Putin and what they're planning for and hoping for, with Trump now, because of course.
Yes, and Felix Sater. Felix Sater just lost his civil case this morning for laundering money on behalf of an Azerbaijani guy through Trump's Soho in Manhattan. When I worked around Trump, Felix Sater had Trump Organization business cards, and he would show up at the after parties, which were full of Russian mobster types, allegedly, right? And he would make introductions between Ivanka and Jared, and they would work the room. And at the time, I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
This is like the most nefarious thing I've ever witnessed. This is supposed to be a TV show. This doesn't happen at the VMAs. Schiller and a bunch of Russian mobsters don't show up in the green room, but they did at Trump's gigs.
Yeah. Azerbaijan. Bless me. Bless you. You know who's been there? Alina Haba. Bless you.
Bless
Thank you.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner wherever you generally get your podcasts.